Hello, everyone, and welcome to Conversations Continued with Creators with Disabilities. Welcome on in. My name is Nikki Stones. I will be your moderator for this panel. We are going to be talking about the intersectionality between being in the disabled community and also being in a community that's not the disabled community. So, my name is Nikki Stones. I'm a member of Team Stream Queens. My pronouns are she, her, or they, them. And you can catch me on twitch.tv/Nikki_Stones. And these are our amazing panelists. So I will pass it on to the legend icon. You have seen their face here before. We'll pass it on to Jay Justice.
Hey guys, thanks for having me once again. My name is Jay Justice. I'm a cosplayer as well as an editor and advocate. I also do consulting for video games, comic books, and literature, basically helping create better narratives by making sure that there's authenticity and representation in positive ways. And that doesn't mean that you can't ever have a disabled villain, but your only disabled character better not be a villain because what are you doing? Like, what kind of negative stereotypes are you perpetuating with the work that you do? Um, I don't want to hog the mic immediately, so we'll all do intros first, and then we'll just get right into it. So everyone else, now's your chance. Who are you? Why are you here? What do you want?
Thanks so much, Jay. Let's
No
move on
problem.
to Dominic Evans. Hi, Dominic.
Hi, so my name is Dominic Evans. As you may notice, I'm laying down. This is how I stream. I am multiply disabled because I have a neuromuscular disability called spinal muscular atrophy, and I have chronic pain. You can probably also see my wheelchair in the background, but when I stream, I just can't sit in it for long periods without really bad pain. I also am neurodivergent. I have ADD, OCD, and anxiety. And I am trans non binary. My pronouns are he, him, they, them. I've been out for about 20 years now, over 20 years, I think. So I'm pretty old. And I work in Hollywood. With studios, teaching them about representation, getting them to hire disabled people, and also working on inclusion. I do everything from like helping casting directors find disabled actors to helping make locations accessible.
Hi, Sixy.
Hi, Sixy.
No.
Oh, and oh, did I lose?
Technical difficulties, everyone. We do
We can still hear
apologize.
you though.
Okay. So I wasn't sure if I heard the beep, so I wasn't sure if we left Discord or not.
No, you're good.
But yeah, so we're finishing our second study in the disability representation on television, and we examined from an intersectional lens because none of the studies were saying if disabled people were women or men, or if they were Black or white or Asian or LGBT. And finding those statistics is really helpful in knowing what disability representation is. Spoiler alert, it's white, cis, male, and not sexual. We don't get to have sexual relationships. So
Thanks so much, Dominic. I cannot wait to hear more of what you have to say about just on the panel. Hope, would you like to introduce yourself, darling?
Sure. Hi, I'm Hope Lethe. I am a Native American Two-Spirit person. I am non-binary. My pronouns are she and they. Um, I am autistic. I have borderline personality disorder, and I am immune compromised, which is apparently relevant now in the COVID era. Um, what I do kind of on the side, I stream on Twitch. I am a TikToker, and in my personal offline life, I am a dance teacher, but I am starting a program for disabled dancers of all body types and all disabilities so that they might be able to experience dance in a way that suits them, not tailoring them to suit dance.
Awesome. That's awesome. Thanks, Hope. And last but not least, we cannot have a panel without the amazing creative powerhouse that is Hobo House. So Hobo, take it away.
Hello. Our name is Hobo Haws. We are a dissociative system of 12 who host, meaning that our consciousness is fragmented into different personalities, and a lot of us have amnesia barriers or grayouts, which is like partial amnesia. Without getting into all of what that is, but we are a game artist, so we work for a gaming company, and then we also do our own artwork. We do videos, interactive content, painting, multimedia. A lot of us have our own outlet that we like to do, and this year we're trying to bring them all together into a single thing to help both bridge communication internally, so that way we don't have so much lost time between us, but also connect with other systems out there to help destigmatize what dissociation is outside of what Hollywood and media tends to portray it as.
Thank you so much, Hobo. So you've met everyone on the panels. We like this is gonna be good. I can tell you now, this is gonna be good. This is gonna be fun. Before we get into well, actually, we might as well just open it up straight away. And there's always, I remember we talked about it last time, on our last panel with Jay and Hobo and myself. We discussed the actual word disability, and I feel like I feel like we should probably revisit it a little bit and kind of go over what do we think of the word disability? How does it do we feel like it applies to us? Do we think there's a better word? So what do we think?
I feel
I feel that. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no, you go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh no, I already said it. Hop in.
Okay. No, I was just gonna say that I feel like I prefer to call myself disabled. When I was growing up in the 80s, I got a lot of you're crippled, you're handicapped. I call myself a crip personally because I've reclaimed that, because that term was used so vilely against me. And so I'm trans. I was growing up, quote unquote, a little girl. I was always called by older, especially older women, oh, you poor little crippled girl, all the time. And so having that kind of vernacular, disabled, is like a cakewalk, And also, I have a friend named Lawrence Carter Long, and he really kind of broke down the etymology. When we think about disabled, we always look at this prefix meaning broken or not working or whatever, but this can also come from die or dimorph, and he explains it as just a second way, a different way of doing things. And I really like that definition of disability, because for me, and in a lot of situations with accommodation, I can do things, or in a world that's more accessible, in this separate way, in this other way, I can do things. So I embrace the word disabled, and I wish that more people were educated about these things about disabled. I really hate the euphemisms like differently abled or just stuff like that. It just drives me up the wall. So.
Oh, hard same. I'm sorry. There's two different conversations that I'm having here about this word. First of all, is how people address you or how they speak about you or to you. You address someone however they ask you to. If someone says that they're disabled, that's it. There's no argument. There's no, well, I was told I should defer to. Told by who? Who is the arbiter of my descriptive terms? That drives me up the wall. So yeah, if someone wants to say that they are referring to themselves as a different euphemism, have at it. But if someone's telling you, no, I'm disabled, I can't go up these stairs, where's the elevator? That's the end of the conversation. And then as how I speak of myself, it's a good descriptor. It gets it across. Like, as someone who wasn't born with a disability, I became disabled as a child. I remember what it's like to not have to explain to someone where you're going and how you're getting there, and like having to plan every single bit of your journey on the train or something. And I feel that having a word for why can't I move sometimes? Why do I have to sometimes use a cane or a wheelchair helped me understand what my life was going to be like as an adult, and that there was independence coming. I just had to learn how to adapt. And being disabled to me just means learning how to adapt to the situation, learning how to get and to advocate for yourself for accommodations and to just be able to interact with everyone else. So when I just say, oh, yeah, I have a disability, it kind of moves the conversation along past the, well, what's wrong with you? Or why can't you do this? Like, this is the status quo. We're going to move along with it. So I just feel that it's smarter and easier and just better for me individually to use that word as my descriptor, because it just gets the point across faster than, well, I'm differently able, so I need to, like, no, that just doesn't make sense to me.
I also feel weird about when people make it, you're differently abled, or one thing that I've seen a lot lately is taking the word disabled but capitalizing the A, and I'm still not sure how I really feel about that, because I'm like, that's just grammatically not happening, and we're already trying to push that they them is grammatically correct. Could you stop trying to mess with it? Like, people are gonna get angry about that, but I mean that at the same time, I'm just like, it's a word. But you know, I call myself disabled sometimes. I don't other times because I'm me. But like, I jokingly go, oh, I have autistic superpowers, but I mean, like, that's because, yeah, like, sometimes we pick up on things that other people don't. Like, I can hear electricity, which is apparently a thing people can't do. And I was like, oh, what do you mean you don't just hear electricity? Like, when the power goes out, it's not like a void of absence? Okay.
I'm jealous of those people.
Right. But yeah, so the word itself, disabled, disability, I like it better than the old words. Like, if people called me handicapped, I would probably be like, could you not? But, you know.
Yeah, like when someone like the word handicap to me, I'm like, are we playing golf here? Like, what's going on?
Right.
Absolutely.
Like,
Absolutely. And that's all you were called in the 80s, unless it was something derogatorily. It was all handicapped. And it's like, I remember being a little kid and being like, what does this word even have to do with, like, what is capped? Is it involving my hand? Like, it makes no sense to the context of disability. But you know what I hate worse than handicapped? Special needs. I hate special. It drives me up the wall.
yeah.
Oh, I don't know a lot about golf, but I know that a handicap usually has a particular number attached to it, so you know what your deficit is. What's the number for, like, having a disability? Is there like a negative, like a stat, like, you know, like in D&D, like, oh, sorry, you lost 10 agility here. Like, well, how does that work? I just need someone to explain this to me.
Like your sleep number. My
Oh,
handicap
God.
number is this.
Oh my gosh. Oh god, it's not even been 20 minutes and we're already
No, it has not. Oh,
we've
my
already
goodness.
devolved into madness. But yeah, I know for myself the whole thing, the word that I keep hearing all the time, and I can't even say it because to me it's in my mind it's a slur. It is the R
No.
word.
Oh, yeah, no, it is.
I
Yeah.
like with the
Thank you
being
for not saying
autistic,
it.
I hate it. I can't say it. But being
Yeah.
autistic and like the fact that it's the same way, like it's like I feel like being queer as well as autistic and having people use the F slur and the R slur. I'm trying to like, and then there's the T slur as well. There's so many of them, and it's like trying to educate people. It's like, okay, yeah, so a white person has no liberty to say the N word. A person who is neurotypical has no has no right to say the R slur.
I'm
A
gonna
person
gently
who
correct and
is
say a non-black person has no right to say it. Period. Because people will be like, "Oh, but I'm not white." Yeah, but are you black? So that, but continue. I just want to make sure that was clear.
true. Yeah. My bad. That was bad phrasing on
No
my
worries.
part. I do apologize. But it's the same thing. It's like I feel like I'm constantly fighting an uphill battle of trying to tell people like, no, you can't say this. And it's like whether it's one word, it's another. And yeah, that I feel like that does
Yeah.
happen
I
quite a
do want to
bit.
counter the people who say, "Oh, but I can say it." Like, well, this is the truth here. You can't say this without consequences. You are telling me who you are by how you treat marginalized people. So if you want to say that, well, you technically can't stop me. No, but you will face the consequences for using racial slurs and derogatory slurs against people who are, not neurotypical, or like anything that really shows the person who you are more than the person you're victimizing. So yeah, you can say it, but you're going to find out what happens when you do.
Mm.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Like, even this week, someone said it. It was a mutual of mine on TikTok, and they said it in a video, and I was like, "Did you really need to go there? Did you really need to use the R slur? Because no, you didn't." And they're like, "Well, I have ADD," and I was like, "It doesn't matter. You've alienated all the autistic people that are friends with you on this app," and we all just kind of were like, "You need to apologize for this, like either to us or on your platform, but like we're done if that doesn't happen." And I ended up being done. I was like, "I've reached out to you a couple times about being problematic, and this is it." So it is like the US has their like freedom of speech laws, but freedom of speech doesn't mean freedom of consequence. And like in Canada, we don't have free speech. Our government can actually charge you with hate crimes for the words that come out of your mouth, and they don't. But it's still, I people say, "Oh, it's just a word." Then why do you have to use it? Like you can change your language. If you view
Right.
it as just a word, why are you defending it so hard? Like
Mm-hmm.
stop using slurs. Like it's easy to not use a slur.
I think it
So we
also
kind of skipped
depends.
over. Oh, go ahead.
I think
Sorry.
it also depends on the context of how you're using a word. I have a friend, she's a black disabled queer activist. Her name is Maylee Johnson, and she runs a group called Chronic Loaf that lets disabled people get together and watch TV if they're stuck at home and things like that. But she talks about how her aunt, who is a black disabled woman, was diagnosed in like the 40s and 50s with an MR diagnosis. And she says, my aunt needs that language to be able to talk about her history, and for us to be able to talk about her history. I feel like that is the exception for the R word. Giving people that
Absolutely.
had that diagnosis the language, but that's not the context people use it in. They're using it to derogatorily call people, usually disabled people, inferior because of intelligence, and that's the context that should just, not be supported and just be removed from vernacular. But there is a purpose for the term, as long as people that have been diagnosed with this are still alive, and that's, think about that. There are people still alive that have gotten this diagnosis. That's how far removed we are from it. We're not far removed from it at all.
Oh,
So
no,
Same
Yeah,
my
I
with
feel like
husband
people
Abby.
was
kind of oh, go ahead.
diagnosed. My husband was diagnosed, like I've read the medical charts, and he was diagnosed with the R slur, and I'm like, "You're 4 years younger than me. Like we're in our 20s. Like this should have not been a thing."
yeah.
Yeah.
When
Go ahead, Jay.
sorry. No, when people are using a slur in a way that references the ableism that they have experienced in their life, that's not the same thing as using a slur in a derogatory fashion. That's all.
No, I definitely agree with you there. Hobo, what are your thoughts on the phrasing and the terms and the uses and
Um, I guess for me, it's like a little bit shifted on the scale because I'm like more like mental like disorder, and there's like a huge debate whether like you can have a disorder but you can be functional or you can be non-functional, like in like how much your system gets along. I'm very grateful because our system gets along fairly well, at least the main people who front. But for us, mostly when it's people talking to us, it's actually coming from more of a place of like genuine fear of, okay, you're being nice, but like I've gotten like, so are you okay? Like, do you have like bad thoughts sometimes? Like, as in like one of you guys is like does one of you take the violence for the group, or like trying to allude to like, is there an evil alter? Is there like someone that's just gonna flip the script and like just go ahead and murder? And like again, like I was talking about this earlier at the Through Our Eyes panel, that like people think that like people with more like schizophrenia or like psychopaths or sociopaths or people with dissociation, like either OSTD or DID, like we are the horror movie trope. Like we are the ones where it's like, how do we fix it? Oh, I know, he's crazy and he's just gonna stalk her, and yeah, and then, oh, we're gonna put in a split personality there, even though that's not the proper name for it, and that's not how those happen. But like, and you know, you start talking about that with people, like, I didn't really appreciate this, and they say, well, it's just a movie. Well, it's just media. Like I enjoy it. Like even people that I would think that, you know, you would understand this, right? Because you've gone through this with like a lot of us are LGBT. I'm pansexual and non-binary, whereas Mega
There are no
is
straights on this panel. There's not a single straight on this panel.
whereas
Mm-mm,
Mega
mm-mm.
is like non-binary, like lesbian. Like so she says non-binary because all the rest of us are either trans man or non-binary. So she's like, I feel uncomfortable fully pulling away from all of you guys. But like again, it's just like you would think that people would understand that, but like because it's so unknown and it's like, well, it's just a media. Like, well, I know you, and they don't see all the other comments of like if someone came in here and genuinely called me crazy, I would be like, like there would be that one part that would be like, yeah, like I would be scared, like because I am scared still. You know, it's terrible. Like some of us still don't know we're a system yet, and they front, and we try to talk to them, and it's terrifying for them, you know. But being very open, uh, but like, you know, I would say that we're on the more functional end of it. I would still say we're very disordered because we can't function correctly a lot of the time. Mega's been trying to get one thing done for 3 years. She's had one thing she's been trying to do for 3 years that I just didn't know about it, you know? So, I mean, but there are other systems that they function great being multiple, and they would never want to integrate because it becomes like a family inside, safe, secure. And we all have different words. Some people want to use parts because everyone in the system wants to be a part of the whole, but that's not okay for some systems. Some systems is we're all alters, we're all alternates, we're different people, and it just depends on the brain and how it copes. So piggybacking up, it depends who you're talking to, you know, like for anything, for whatever disorder or disability or whatever, your past shapes how you view those words, you know?
Hobo, you talking about being a system and also you mentioning DID, it reminds me of when the movie Split came out. So a lot of people know about my work that I do in disability representation. In 2014, I started a Twitter hashtag called Film This. We had regular discussions on disability in films. So when films come out, people come to me all the time. And I had more than one person with DID come, and they just what the stories they told me, some of them were saying, I'm afraid because my family saw Split and now they think I'm this way. This is the
Yeah.
long-term consequence of these films and this horrible representation is that they said, I'm afraid because they see this movie and they think this is what my life is like. And people with DID are way more likely to be victims of violence than perpetrators. But you wouldn't know that by Hollywood at all. In every case, it's always a murderous person with a split personality, quote unquote, and they're out to be they're quote unquote homicidal and psychotic and all these harmful terms we use to talk about people that are actually usually the ones that are having to defend themselves and protect themselves. So just I don't know how you even reassure people. It's like you got to keep educating. They were thanking me and I was doing the bare minimum of just talking about it at this point, but there isn't even that going on to where we're saying this is unacceptable because the media shows it, people believe it, they don't have firsthand experience with people with whatever disability is being represented incorrectly, and then they make assumptions and it leads to mistreatment, it leads to lack of legislation, it leads to all kinds of things that affect our daily lives as disabled people. And I think that's true for any marginalized community. The misrepresentation of our people, whoever that group may be, leads to mistreatment, lack of representation, lack of funding, lack of legislation. And that's why we just have to talk about this and why we need better representation, even in streaming, especially in streaming.
Now, you're kind of leading right into what I'd wanted to bring up at the beginning of the panel, because we've been kind of operating on the assumption that everyone listening and watching knows what intersectionality means. What is it? Where did it come from? Like all that stuff. And we didn't really get into that. And I was hoping we would, because that's the name of the panel.
Yeah.
So, Nikki, because you're moderating, I didn't know, did you have a particular way you wanted to get into that topic or no?
Yeah, so basically I wanted to talk about the term disability and just kind of get that out of the way and then move into the actual intersectionality of how being part of the disabled community and another community is affecting us and how we have to essentially live our lives in a different way than
But are you going to discuss what intersectionality is and where the term came from? That's what I was asking.
Yes. So so yeah.
I'm not trying to do your job for you.
No, go for it. Go for it. Honestly, go for it. Like you when it comes down to it, you have a lot more knowledge on this stuff than I do. So anything when you want to yell at me if I've missed something, please do, because I'm like
I just think that I was unaware of what your outline was. So I'm sorry.
So
intersectionality.
Yeah, go for it.
So intersectionality is an analytic tool that you can use to really get into either how people are being treated, whether it's a work environment or a family or a project or anything. It's something that it's not something that you can guarantee, but it is a way for you to make things better. And it was started by Kimberly Crenshaw. She literally coined the term to focus on the intersection of being Black And a lot of times when we have these discussions about intersectionality, if you're leaving out race, you're missing the point of what the word is even for. And it has since expanded in the last few years to include other marginalizations. But if you're losing the focus of race relations, which is like so impactful, because white supremacy is ableism, is homophobia, is transphobia, it all comes from the same place. And when people try to argue that, oh, well, you can't help one community without harming another, that is the colonizers talking. Don't listen to that. That's nonsense. We can all work together to make a better opportunity for everybody. It's not about fighting or like crabs in a barrel. How do the crabs get in the barrel? The barrel's not a natural environment for these crabs. Why are they fighting? Like, I feel like intersectionality can be used as a tool to make things better, to create more access, to create more legislation, like to really think about, okay, we're doing this project. Have we considered hiring from every single marginalization that we could? Are we making an effort to go past the Rooney rule of just, can we just interview one person who's not a cis white able-bodied straight man? Can like maybe we can do more than that. So I think that everyone definitely has been chiming in a way that matches the overarching theme of intersectionality. But as all of us are multiply marginalized, you know that feeling of when you go into a community that's supposed to be for you and it's hurting another aspect of yourself.
Yes.
When you go into when you go into a disability community and you encounter transphobia, when you go into a queer community and you encounter racism, like when you go anywhere and encounter people who are just treating you like garbage because you're mentally ill, like that to me is like a real truthful, honest discussion of intersectionality. And I'm so happy that like all of us are here to really get into it in different perspectives in different ways. I just want to make sure people understood that it's not something that's just like, oh yes, it's a catchword. No, it's actually a tool that can help you make things better in terms of your workplace or your work that you're working on or your streaming or anything. All right, I'm done now.
White supremacy is what makes us feel excluded, because it's a benefit to white supremacy to keep our groups apart. It benefits white supremacy if we don't work together. And you know, you've seen it forever. Marginalized communities, poor communities have been historically separated, because when poor communities get together, and there's more poor people than rich people, and when the poor communities get together, they're a great example, because white poor people have literally been taught to be racist, because rich people who are mainly white do not want them fighting against with Black and brown communities, because that would overthrow the rich people, you know. And I always think of that when I'm thinking of intersectionality, because that's how it is with every community. I'm a part of the neuromuscular disability community. It is so racist, so sexist, so transphobic, and so queerphobic. I was in a group, I would say maybe around a decade ago. The group is still around. I left it, but they decided they wanted to have gendered like offshoots, so that girls with neuromuscular disabilities could talk about issues pertinent to them, and boys could talk about issues pertinent to them. And I said, well, where do I go? They said, well, you use he, him, so you need to go to the men's group. Well, I went to the men's group, and they were talking about things like, when I get it out of my Hoyer lift, I sometimes sit on my nuts. Well, being trans in my situation, I'm never going to have that issue. Meanwhile, the women's group was having discussions about menstruation and wanting to have children, things that affected my body as a trans person that I was going through and had no place to talk. But I was told, you know, you don't fit here either. And they were like, well, you just need to make your own group. At the time, I was the only trans person that was out in the group. So I was like, what? I'm going to have a community with myself? And they were like, well, no, I guess you're just on your own. Good luck. And that's how I think a lot of us feel. The trans community is ableist. The disabled community is queerphobic and transphobic. You know, there's no safe place for me anywhere. And I don't feel like I belong anywhere. So I end up often doing my own work in my own little bubble, and hoping that I can help everyone, because for me that's what it's about. This isn't just about making the world better for me, but if I, as a marginalized person, can do things that are intersectional, then I benefit. So if we're all worried about ourselves, we benefit from intersectional work, but everybody else gets to join us. Shouldn't we hop on that bandwagon? I wish that's what all these communities would do, because that would make the world so much better for so many of us.
Yeah, it gets a little frustrating dealing with communities that haven't quite embraced intersectionality. Like, I get told all the time, "Oh, I can't be autistic because they're expecting Sheldon Cooper. They're not expecting me," and it's very irritating. I've been told, "Oh, you can't be autistic because you don't clap," and I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "Because I don't have this tick that you saw another autistic person have," and they're like, "Oh, but you like, I'm not out as non-binary to a lot of my family, so they're like, "Oh, but you're a girl, so you can't because that's for boys." And like, I've had to hide the fact that I have autism, like, even in my native community, because they're like, "Oh, well, native kids don't get autism," and I'm like,
Ooh, that sounds familiar. You can't have depression. You black. You better just get over it.
Oh, yeah.
right.
Oh my god.
That part.
I can definitely add to the autistic, and like for like the Irish queer community has a lot of problems. We're just gonna say that. But the one thing I always hear is, "Oh my god, you're an autistic drag queen. I would never have guessed. You're like so well spoken, and you like hide it really well." And I'm like, listen, I can tell you right now, me getting on stage for 3.5 minutes is completely different from what you see backstage. Backstage, I'm consistently fidgeting. Like, the good part about this is I've got like fidget tools on my lap right now. Like, I'm playing with my eyeliner, I'm playing with like a ring, I'm playing with loads of different things, but you can't see it because it's underneath my table.
So I actually tried to normalize stimming, and I didn't realize that I'm playing with a pen and a hair
I was
elastic
just showing
on
mine.
camera. So it's a thing that I'm
I've been
trying to
petting
do
the cat
is
this entire time.
normalize. Yeah, I've been trying to normalize stimming because a lot of people think, "Oh, they're just fidgety or whatever," but like, I don't know if I'd be able to carry on an actual conversation without playing with the things. Like, it helps my brain process the information. And people always, like, I actually was forced as a kid to sit on my hands so that I would stop fidgeting with things, like in school and stuff like that, and I'm like, that wasn't helpful. It didn't make me pay attention to anything. It made me hyper focus on the fact that I couldn't stim, and I got
Why are we
nothing
forced to
from that.
mask to fit into like the standard human behaviors, just so that we can be acceptable and to be allowed to interact with things? And then when we mask so well that we're allowed to interact, we're told that we can't be ill because we've been masking so well.
Oh my god. I just that topic
gonna mute
makes me so upset.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to attack everyone so violently. You came here to have a good time.
That's it, Pablo.
No, it's
That's
just
not-
it's just so true. It's just so unbelievably true.
It really is. And I know, like, I feel like I went to a school. I brought this up in the last panel that we did, where in school I was told, "Oh, you like this isn't autism. This is not what we've seen before." And I'm like, okay, but keep in mind the fact that I've also spent how many years hiding in the closet. I'm like dealing with all of this stuff. Obviously, all of these things, plus my type of autism and the way that I act and the way that I do things, is going to be completely different to someone who is cisgendered, straight, and autistic, because they've got a different type. They process their autism differently than I do. I don't know if process is the right word there, but
All brains are different.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Maybe they present differently than you do.
Yeah, and like, me and my friends, we have this thing where we kind of poke fun at each other and we're like, oh, that's AC, and we mean autistic culture. And so, yeah, we do have some widely overlapping things. It's why we've been labeled with this, but like at the same time, like we're all different. Like me and my best friend, our texture processes are completely opposite. Like I like squishy goopy things and those repulse him. He likes crunchy things and I'm like, oh my god. So like it's weird, but there is still like a sensory thing there. There is still a texture thing there. It does widely overlap, but it's not all the same. And it's very frustrating where you say, "Oh, I have autism," and they immediately think that I'm this scientific, math-driven white male that's Sheldon Cooper, and I'm like, "Sorry, no." And one of my I call it my favorite. When I say my favorite, I'm being absolutely sarcastic, is when people are like, "Oh, but you're not that autistic." And I'm like, "You mean my autism doesn't affect you?"
Yeah, and there's also inter-community issues with this too. So because I'm physically disabled, I was born with a neuromuscular disability. I walked until I was 16, but it was always visible if you saw me moving, you know. And so getting mental health based diagnosis was a million times harder because at first it was, well, you're just depressed because you're physically disabled. And that was not at all what it was. I wasn't even depressed. I had anxiety. And it really took until I tried to hurt myself and for the doctor to say, okay, you have anxiety. But I also so just a background, I just turned 40 in December. And a few months before that, I was diagnosed with ADD. And so it really took having a therapist who was willing to work with me. I had no idea I was even going to be diagnosed with ADD. It's really kind of thrown me for a loop, actually, because I went to her thinking that I wanted to find out if there was something going on trauma based because I was having panic attacks and flashbacks. And what I ended up getting was an ADD diagnosis. But I feel like because of all these misconceptions about me being, you know, just physically disabled, that I was even ignoring these warning signs. Looking back, I see I was this horribly failed child. My school was already failing me as a physically disabled person. And so then to have ADD, I hate using the word smart, but I was good enough at school to like get by, you know. But there was this year where I had spinal fusion and I missed 5 months of school, and the school sent a tutor. And she said, I don't do math, I don't do French, I don't do Spanish, I don't do history, I only do English. And our English that year was we had to write 4 papers, one per semester or one per quarter. So I didn't even need help with that. I can write papers in my sleep. So I did so poorly in school because I just didn't have the executive functioning to teach myself, you know what I mean? And that's the only time, and they just made the excuse, well, you weren't in class, you know. But had somebody really taken a closer look, they would have seen that I was, you know, just barely getting by. I never did my homework, and still I could do it right before I turned it in and get a good grade, you know. And there was just all these other problems, but because I was physically disabled, they just all they saw was my wheelchair and nothing else. And I feel like I just have been so failed because of that. So now I'm going through all these emotions and kind of trying to deal with life now that I have a new diagnosis and what that means. And it fits really well, but where do I go from here? You know?
Yeah.
it feels like a common narrative with all of us and with like millions of people in America and other countries too, is that it's not so much the medical or like psychological or diagnoses or anything. It's more like, yes, the system failed me and this is how. Like, just by not like giving you the tools that every other person would get just to complete their education. Like in my case, I became disabled when I was in middle school, and high school was a nightmare because like they wouldn't send the right tutor, they wouldn't even like do. And remember, this is like in the 2000s where email is a thing. Like they could have just like really helped me. And it sucks that after I gave up on this disaster and got a GED, now there's stuff in place to help disabled children, and I'm so happy that there's there. But I'm like, why did I have to be the first one to suffer through this before the school district got themselves together and was like, you know what, you shouldn't penalize someone for not being able to physically be in class because they have unknown, autoimmune disease and can't function. It should be that as long as someone's able to do the work and you give them the tools they need, we should have a chance to at least get a degree. Like it's so ridiculous. Like you're not being disenfranchised because of your own help. It's because the system is refusing to be a society and take care of people who are contributing to it by existing. Like we could be here all day getting into that. Like, oh my gosh. But what reminded me, what I was originally going to say before, was that people would see me as a cosplayer who worked 25 conventions a year and be like, well, you can't be disabled, you do so many cons. And I'm like, I do so many cons because I'm disabled, because I can't work a regular 9-to-5 job, and this is a way for me to earn income by doing things that are not going to physically be as impactful as standing at a cashier's table for 10 hours a day or something. And the fact that they think that disabled means can't do things that I think you shouldn't be able to do, and not requires accommodations to accomplish tasks. Like the disconnect between the perception of who we are as people and like what we're actually doing is just like miles away. There's a whole Grand Canyon between the reality and the perception because of the bad representation, and now we've come full circle.
even when the school has systems in place to help, not all teachers respect it. In grade 10, I was I was diagnosed autistic as an adult, but before that my diagnosis was ADD. And I had an IEP, an individualized learning education plan. There we go. There it is. And I walked into math. I was actually very good at math until grade 10. The teacher goes, your file says you have ADD. You don't belong in my class, because we had like the academic and the applied classes, the university and the college classes in high school. And she was an academic teacher. She said, nope, you belong in the class for the kids that are applied, not academic, because you're not going to be smart enough for my class. And I wish I was kidding when I said she researched methods that ADD kids do not work well, do not function well, and taught her class in that way. I don't know if anyone else has heard of this, but we did group work in math every single day because I did not function well in groups. I was a bullied kid, and so she wanted me to drop the class. And in parent-teacher interview, she handed my mom a 37% in the class. My mom said, this is not you. You are a 90 student. Like, what is this? And I said, Mom, she's got us in group work every day. I sit in the corner and I read because no one wants to be in a group with me. And then she doesn't want to help me, and I'm bullied. And my mom she was like, okay, I guess you can go to the applied class if that's what you want to do, because you're going to fail and we don't want you to not graduate high school. I went to the applied class. The teacher was like, she doesn't belong here. She's teaching the class. She's tutoring the entire class. She doesn't belong here. But there was nothing anyone could do.
Yeah.
Do you want to like just very quickly tell us the name of that teacher and the school that they're in? We just want to talk. We just want to talk.
Just want to talk.
We just want to talk.
I mean, honestly,
my mom almost had her fired, and like I run into her at the mall, like pre-COVID. I'd run into her at the mall, and I'd be like, "Oh hey," and she'd be like, "Oh hey, what you doing?" And I'd be like, "Oh hey, so I started this non-for-profit. I'm doing this now, and don't worry, my math is fine." Like I am.
I know
so
success is the best revenge, but I also want to punch that lady.
Oh, I know. I do too. I do too.
My school, I'm pretty sure they broke the law. When you said schools, even if they have stuff in place, they don't do it. So I came into school in 1985, about 10 years after legislation was passed that they said they had to mainstream disabled kids. And my school fought mainstreaming me. In fact, I scored so high on the preschool test because my birthday's in December. So I was 4.5 and I took the test. And they said, well, you only have a third grade English and first grade math level. So we're not going to put you in kindergarten. It needs to be a third grade all across the board. That was their requirement. If you go into early kindergarten, you have to have a third grade level. Yeah. So then the next year they were like, well, we want to send you to the MRDD school. Yeah. So my parents had to fight that. So then when I got in high school, once I was in a wheelchair full time, I couldn't remove my coat. I would have to go around class all day with a coat on. They wouldn't give me a person to help me. My friend, who was also in a wheelchair, eventually his mom fought and got him one. And she would just be mine too, which is if he was not in class, I would go all day with a coat. I would never have my books. They were basically like you have to beg your classmates, but I was tortured really badly. In fact, I'm featured in a book called American Hate about a hate crime I experienced in high school. It actually happened around this exact same time, like maybe a week or two after I returned from school, from my spinal fusion. They put dead rats in the elevator I used. Um, and the school never bothered finding the people. They told everybody that they did that. They wanted me to run over all the dead bodies, but someone stopped me as I was starting to run over. Yeah. So yeah, it was messed up. And the school knew. The schools get money for us. They get extra money for every single one of us that's disabled. But they just kept taking the money and not paying for any of the accommodations. And that's the problem with schools. They know. They know how to accommodate disabled kids, but they either don't have the money. A lot of the poorer schools, which are often Black and brown schools, so a lot of Black and brown disabled kids are failed because they don't even have the money for accommodations. But the richer white schools just will take the money and not pay for the accommodations. So either way, disabled kids are getting screwed, and falling through the cracks as a result.
That part there, I can definitely attest to the whole rich white schools taking the money. Like, so I went to a private school. My parents were like, oh yeah, so you should go here, you'll get like good education and everything. I was supposed to get they call them SNAs here, like special needs assistants. I hate the term. Like, no, you're just someone who's helping me. That's it. You're just someone who's helping me. That's it. But I was supposed to get one of those from first to sixth year. So we go, like, in secondary school, we've got first to sixth year from when we're 13 to 18, and I didn't get any at all. My parents were like consistently in trying to get me help. Like, there was none of it. And at the end, so when we do our exams at the very end of sixth year, we have a thing called DARE, which is the Disability Access Route to Education, where you can get reduced. Basically, it's like it reduces the amount of points required for you to get into a university or college course. And I applied and I got it, but I had to turn around, and this brings back the whole intersectionality part of things. I had to turn around and talk about how being gay was causing me serious anxiety, serious depression, and all of this. And then it was like, oh, and I have autism on the side as well. And because I couldn't turn around and be like, yeah, I'm autistic, this is why I'm missing classes, because DARE would turn around and be like, oh, but your school is one of the top schools in Ireland, why are they not helping you? They didn't give me anything, but
Yep. I had to
I
deal
mean,
with.
even if they had, I don't call it them giving you anything. Everything that you're supposed to be receiving as an accommodation is something that's literally, it's the law. Like, it's like someone saying, oh, they gave you a ramp. That ramp was supposed to be here whether I existed or not. The hell?
Yeah.
We always act like following the law is like they're doing us a favor, but it's like, no, you're meant to. I mean, you legally, when a business is all like, let me pat myself on the back for, becoming physically accessible, it's like, where were you 30 years ago when you were supposed to? You know?
And
But they can say, well, I have an undue. That's another thing. Our laws are like some of the only laws that are like, um, I you can get out of it if it creates undue hardship for your business. Like, what is that supposed to mean? It creates undue hardship for me as a disabled person trying to get in your business. So what about my undue hardship?
They need to refine the definition of undue hardship as to it would cost 3 times the amount of your annual income for your company because it's used very vaguely. But I'm like, hardship is like rent hardship. If your rent is more than 1/3 of your income, that is a hardship. If it would be more than 1/3 of their income to install a ramp, then their business probably is going to go out of business anyway. Like, so I feel like that term is it's too broad. It needs to be narrowed down and pointed out exactly, okay, how much is it really going to cost you? If it's not going to break the bank, just do it. You'll get more customers because I don't feel like knocking on the window and begging people to bring the Dunkin' Donuts out if there's no ramp. I'm just gonna go somewhere else.
Nikki, you talking about being queer and disabled made me remember something. A lot of statistics have showed, and we don't talk about this at all in the queer community, but the vast majority of queer people have some type of disability because when you're oppressed, and this is really true for most marginalized communities, you are more likely to have stress physically and stress mentally. So you are more likely to have a mental health or chronic health disability if you don't have another type of disability, if you are queer. But the queer and trans communities like largely ignore disabled people. And that's like you're ignoring over half your group. But I think that also goes back to, do you identify as disabled? And I feel like there's a lot of people that may not realize that they qualify to be a part of the disabled community, or don't think of themselves in that way because we've tried to, not we, but like we as society have tried to define disability as, physical, or you're physically disabled or blind or a little person. You're not chronically or psychosocially disabled, but there's such huge overlap. So why aren't we working together
I
is
have a
my big
theory on
thing.
that one. So first, like you said, people think disability only means paralysis or only means amputation, or they have this idea in their head. Well, that's not me. I just can't hear out of one ear, and I need very, very thick glasses to see, and they don't actually work as well as they should. Like, people don't really, they think that oh, I'm just fine. Or if they are aware of it, there's this stigma. It's kind of like those men we know that say that they are straight, but they sleep with their friends and their partner and people, but they're straight because they don't want to give up the privilege of being seen as a straight man because they don't want to be seen as gay. I know people who literally qualify for disability who are disabled who are like, well, I don't want to be seen as disabled, so I'm just gonna pretend like I'm fine for as long as I can because that is a stigma I don't want to take upon myself because I don't want to see myself that way. I don't want to be treated that way.
Yeah.
This is the exact same thing as the dudes pretend to be straight when they're not. I'm telling you, I've seen it.
I would say
And I'm sorry for it's more like a helpless laugh, not like it's funny, but like I want to help you see who you are and understand that there's nothing wrong with who you are. You don't have to pretend something that you're not. You will still be okay if you are a marginalized person. Your privilege is not some kind of bulletproof shield. And if it was, it's full of holes, honey. Take it off.
T. And I remember at the last panel, Jay, you actually talked a lot, and you talked a lot about the
I
definition
did, sorry.
of disability. And I'm like, let's go back to this. Let's go back to this because a lot of people, like, I know for myself, I can only speak from my own experiences, but a lot of people in the queer community are like, well, in Ireland at least, they're like, oh, you're autistic. That's not a disability. I'm like, uh, I mean, I'm pretty sure it is, as the government thinks it is, the mental, like the HSE thinks it is. So what like why is there such a difference between societies society's definition of disability and the actual legal and medical definitions of disability? Why is there that difference there, and what can we do to kind of differentiate between the two of them?
Well, first of all, do those people telling you that you're not autistic actually know what autism is? Because I don't think they
No, they do not.
do. No.
And then there's the other thing that people whose mental disabilities or they seem to overshadow if they have both mental and physical disabilities. I do it myself. I focus on, oh, I'm autistic, I have borderline personality disorder, and I forget to mention, my autoimmune diseases that do cause me crippling pain every day because, well, I still teach dance, I still walk, so it's not that bad. Never mind that if it's a certain temperature, I can't feel my feet. And how am I supposed to teach dance if I can't feel my feet? But the studio's landlord doesn't feel like heat is important to provide to the building. And I'm like, I can't feel my feet and I'm supposed to be teaching. This isn't humane, this isn't okay. And we're trying to like do everything we can, but it's going to cost us as a studio more money. And I feel bad because my employer, she's like trying her hardest, but I mean, what can you do? Like, it's a huge empty building. It's a dance studio that's made out of concrete. There's only so much a space heater is gonna do. Like, there's only so much it's gonna do. But I mean, it gets minus 40
Blankets
Celsius
on the floor
around
like
here.
in the 1910s. Oh, God. Tapestries upon the walls to try to keep the warmth in. Oh, that's so sad.
Do y'all feel pressure to identify with more than, for those that have more than one disability? Because I feel like there's a huge amount of pressure for me to be seen specifically as a physically disabled person. And I feel like that also fails me as, in terms of chronic and mental health based, disabilities. Because I also am expected to always, be this wheelchair user. I don't always feel like I fit in, or I don't always feel like I understand my place when talking about being neurodivergent, or but at the same time, my girlfriend was just saying, there was a medication that my doctor wanted me to take for ADD, but it interacts with one of my asthma medications. And my girlfriend was like, well, breathing overrules everything. And I was just thinking about how I don't really talk that much about being asthmatic, but that's absolutely true. If I don't breathe, I'm dead, but because, I'm a wheelchair user, or I talk about something else, or I talk about my OCD. I don't know if it's necessarily forgetting that there's more going on, but these are significant things in our lives too,
Well, I kind of agree, but also I want to ask you this, and please, like, stop me if I'm being offensive, or correct me if I say something that's out of place, because I don't normally like to be compared to an inanimate object. I think that's dehumanizing. But in this situation, if the gas tank in a car needs to be patched up, but there's also other problems with the car involving like the brakes, the transmission, whatever. I'm not a car person, but I'm saying, yes, you fix the gas tank because the car won't move without the gas. That doesn't discount the other serious issues with the car. So I feel like that you're not discounting your own other disabilities by saying, like, yeah, I gotta breathe, that's important, and it is. But I don't think that you are doing yourself a disservice by acknowledging that. You know what I mean? I think that each part of your personality is just as important as the other parts.
Oh yeah. I think that was my point, but I don't know. I didn't say it as eloquently as you, Jay. So thank you for helping me with that language. I think it's more that I not neglect the fact that I have to breathe, but I don't talk about or focus as much on my asthma, which is a significant disability for me, because I'm kind of forced to focus on the wheelchair and the SMA and the, and then I just kind of feel like I don't have support for that stuff. I think especially with the neurodivergent stuff, I feel really like separated from that community because I'm physically disabled, and kind of like I don't really belong anywhere. That's been my real struggle. Not even feeling like I belong anywhere in disability spaces, any of them, because everybody sees me as a wheelchair user, you know and don't want, but even the wheelchair users are like, no, you're weird in other ways, so go away. So it can be very isolating, I think.
Yeah, just because someone has a similar marginalization as you does not mean that they're going to be there for you, or that you guys are automatically a community. It's like with cosplay, people are like, "Oh, they're a cosplayer too." I'm like, that doesn't mean anything. Like, don't make the assumption that just because someone also uses a wheelchair that they're going to be. Oh, I love this one. You should be nicer. You're disabled. I've gotten that. It's like, yes, I'm disabled and I'm also mean. Go move out of my way. Like, I need a T-shirt. Like, you'd think God would make you a kinder person if he's going to do that to you. And I'm like, wow.
Well, then there's also probably the fact that you're black and you're a cosplayer. That's a whole other.
Oh yeah, then the angry black woman stereotype and all that stuff. And like, oh, that's why you're like this or whatever. Like, oh, all that stuff tied together, and it's just like, it is exhausting. And I would
Yeah.
really love for like the last part of this panel if we could all get into like our creative aspects and like what we do, because I feel like, yes, it's important to discuss your intersections and like how you move through the world, but it's also important to discuss your passions and what like kind of fuels you as a person, because you want to be seen as more than your disability and more than your mental illness, but also not to have those things discounted because they are a part of you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yes.
I actually I want to plug a community that's pretty good
Do
right
it.
now. It's horrible. It is horrible. It has its moment, but there is a community that's very good, and I'm a part of it. And it's the BDSM community. Has been fantastic to me. They are
So good.
accepting
I'm
that
happy to hear positive stuff.
they're accepting that I'm native. They're like, one of the first things that's always asked is, "Oh, how can we make this more accessible for you?" Like, it is great, and it's weird to think that that is the community that's, but like it is. Like, I'm an educator in that sense. Like, I teach classes on that stuff, and I'm keeping it TOS friendly. And but like but
Is
like
this
so
in a certain part of Canada, or?
I found kind of as a whole, actually. I have yet to actually be, and even outside, I have kind of an international community right now through finding it through TikTok and stuff. But like in Canada, I teach at one convention, and they do everything. Like, if they cannot get a building to hold the convention that is not wheelchair accessible, that does not have all these requirements, they don't do it. They're like, nope, the heat's off in this building, and that's going to cause this issues for these people. Oh, if it's too much echo, that's going to cause people to have sensory issues, so we can't do it. If there's no elevator that isn't very wheelchair friendly, because not elevators are wheelchair friendly either. Like,
Yeah.
which is a thing that I had never really thought about until I started helping organizing these events, and we were like, okay, well, this and this and this, and then we're, no, not that building because of that. And we go to lengths to make sure that we can do it. We recently had to change restaurants that our munch was had at because they were like, oh, well, we're going to put you on the platform. And we're like, there are 4 people in wheelchairs in our community. Is there a ramp? Oh, no, it's fine. You guys can help them up there. We're like, but then they can't get to the bathroom.
Yeah.
What do
Not
you
everybody
want?
can transfer either. What?
Like,
Oh my God.
it was
That's
it was
so
a mess,
awesome.
but we were like, okay, well, if you can't help us, we're gonna find a place that can. And so that is one community I do want to brag about a little bit, because I do find that where every community does have its crap, I find that community overwhelmingly is trying its hardest to be as
I wish I
intersectional as
had
possible.
the same experience. I
Oh
mean,
no.
when I started back like 20 years ago when I was a young pup, I remember going to Munches and they would carry my wheelchair. Like back in the day, I would agree with that. But then, and this was in Ohio before I moved to Michigan. I don't know what it's like in Michigan. I've only been in Michigan mainly since Corona, but in Ohio. So I started to try to get involved in the community in person. And they started having everything at people's houses. And houses are notoriously not accessible. So I would be like, how can I participate? I'm a wheelchair user. And they would be like, well, you just can't. Sorry. And that was their thing. They just were like, they shut it down. They didn't want to get involved at all. So I just, stop going to stuff. But when it's funny that 20 years ago they were literally carrying wheelchairs up steps to make sure people were involved. But maybe it's just an Ohio thing. But it's been
can
been
be.
kind of
No.
miss
It's
for
not
me.
just, but
It's not.
it can be hard. It is hard, but I do see that community as one of the communities that is trying the hardest, which makes me
Do you
happy.
guys have noticed that it's kind of cyclical when things are topical? There's all these big demonstrations. Everyone, like last June, everyone had all this spirit and this heart and this force and this energy to help Black people, and then it kind of just went. And I know that when there's a big disability rally, people are super down to help with the cause, and then the minute that's over with, there's no elevator, too bad, I guess. And then, so it's like people are doing things
Literally.
for the appearance.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's not really. No, they don't
So
really care.
in Canada, we just had Bell Let's Talk Day, which is where the rest of Canada in this one big company likes to pretend that they care about mental illness, and you use the hashtag and they donate 5 cents for every time you use the hashtag to mental health research, but it's a company that they own that's doing the research, and they don't actually do much to help disabled people besides that. And so I I'm like, "Oh, can you keep that Bell Let's Talk energy where you want to talk about mental illness when my symptoms are showing, when I'm not able to mask, when I'm literally sitting here going, hey, I know Canada has universal health care, but being limited to 10 therapy sessions per lifetime where the therapist doesn't get to know you for free isn't okay. And then being told, well, you're not currently suicidal, so you don't need therapy, is not enough."
Yeah, I 100%
Right.
agree with that. I'm going to come in there and say Ireland is the exact same. Ireland is like, oh, we need to care about mental health. We need to do all of this, and our government is very much like, we're going to keep promoting positive mental health. I know that everyone's feeling down during lockdown, and yet I've been on the waiting list for mental health services for nearly a year now, and I have not been seen to. I've not had any communication. I've had to go and I'm gonna put it out here, and I hope every single government in the world is listening to this. Healthcare is not a privilege, it is a necessity. We should not be having to pay to make sure that we can stay alive. And
Life is a privilege. Capitalism.
exactly.
Hashtag capitalism.
Oh no.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, sorry. Life, teeth, anything like having a corporeal form is a privilege. I'm so tired of this. Oh my god.
Right.
Woo.
I'm
Like I
over
have
it.
ideas for making like a little comic about it, and then I think to myself, no matter how dramatically bad it is in my little post-apoc comic about capitalism, something similar will happen in real life, and it won't be funny anymore. It'll be like The Onion is not good enough because it's too similar to what we're already experiencing. It's like, how do you make a parody of this when it's already this bad in real life?
That
Mhm.
part.
And that goes back to us not being a society that prevents things. We address situations when they're already happening. Like mental health, physical health, And if we were a society that believed in preventative health, this wouldn't be an issue.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Hobo, what have your experiences been in terms of what we've just been talking about? You've been quiet. You've been quiet.
Well, I don't like to talk over people, and I get nervous when I hear everybody talking. Can you repeat what it was? Because I was following everyone's points.
Yeah, so we were talking about how there was the, how do I phrase this?
Because
like, this is
sometimes,
where my
like,
brain just
I'm like
shuts down.
listening to different people, but then Sunny wants to say one thing and Ecto wants to say another, and then everyone's talking inside and then everyone's talking outside, and then someone's like, I have an idea, and they start talking, and I'm like, oh wait, I don't know, should this
We've been kind of all over the place, but the general idea was like, how can we make the shift from the capitalist thing of like, it's everyone for themselves, and if you're a poor person, you're good luck, to like having more of a preventative society and making things better in a way that prevents things from happening, as opposed to like not even really addressing things after they happen, more like, oh, that's too bad. Maybe in 5 years we'll raise minimum wage by $5, like that kind of.
Yeah.
Oh god, and there's so much to discuss and to like break down about this, that any opinion you had relating to like being a disabled person living under capitalism would be relevant to the topic, honestly.
Yeah, without because it's just one of the, someone's very loud and I'm like just stay calm. Is like we saw a lot of like awareness and stuff for like depression and anxiety, and like you were talking about earlier, where it's like you have really thick glass. I have to go down the list of the everyone so that it makes sense in my head. So like you were talking about the thick glasses and stuff, and everyone says, oh, it's not that bad. And then Sunny was like, yes, that makes sense, because like when people say like, oh, I have depression, but like I don't have like your depression, or I have anxiety, but I don't have it like that bad. And then we were talking about growing up and stuff with religion and all that, like we were always told like, oh no, that's the devil trying to get you, like this, you're haunted, you have to go, and like there's a lot of like religious stuff with being plural, and I have other plural friends who have experienced the same things, like exorcisms and like being blessed and stuff like that, because there's just no awareness. Instead of, like, oh, your brain is doing this thing to cope, it becomes this religious thing instead. And then therapists, I know a lot of friends who have trauma from therapists as well, from giving them like different medications and like things for stuff that they clearly don't have, because like having dissociation with like parts or alters is not like, it's very misunderstood by people. And so a lot of therapists will kind of like send you in circles, and we got sent in circles for a long time. And if we landed on a trauma specialist who was finally able to kind of talk to us differently about things, so like a regular like therapist and that we would go to treated us very differently than who we have now. And it's just because it's a matter of perspective. But like so many people I know have trauma from therapists and doctors because of the way that this way of thinking is treated. I don't know if I'm saying this right, but like so I don't know. I feel like most days I don't know where to go. I want to, I guess joke about the normal things that everyone else jokes about, and stuff like that, and say all the normal things, and like do all the stuff where everyone's joking about like stuff that you wouldn't even think twice about. But sometimes I open my mouth and then someone inside is just like red alerts blazing, like we can't do that, and I can't talk about it, but I don't know why. And then everyone's like, well, you can't have this because you're not traumatized. And I'm like, well, I don't have the trauma, but they do. But the only reason that I'm able to get through this Discord call is because they're not fronting. So I don't know how to explain that to people without everyone going like, you're insane. Or, so, you know, I have a lot to say, but also
We're here for it.
at the same time, I feel like none of it is a linear conversation, so I'm just gonna hug my pen.
It doesn't have to be linear.
I think we've
Good.
yeah, I feel like none of like this entire panel has not been linear. I'm like, we started on one thing and we ended up like in a completely different place, and this is what's good about these. It's we're able to talk about our experiences, and everyone, like, no matter what our experiences are, no matter what we have, no matter what is going on, we are valid. Every single one of us is valid, and every single experience that we have had, and every single thing that we want to talk about is so important. And I feel like that is why that's part of the reason as well why we continued these conversations with like past the con, and I guarantee you there'll be more of them in the future as well, because we could go on for years with these discussions.
I just feel a little bad because someone is telling me some experiences, and like I say, I'm very grateful that our system was able to figure out a way to talk to each other like more easily. But then again, growing up, we all thought that we were haunted, and we were all pointing at each other saying, you're the person possessing me and I need to get rid of you. And like, so sometimes it's like, depending on how much interaction we have, like some alters I cannot talk to at all. Like I just can't. And so I know there was something that I wanted to say to like 3 different people that were like important, but they're not my thoughts. And so I'm like, what was it that you wanted? And it's like hearing someone from like the 3rd floor on the other end of the house, and you're just like, I know you have a great thought and I know you're there, but also I don't want to like do something embarrassing during stream, like, but like, because sometimes Archie will come out on our channel, and I know that's very, Archie's younger and loves spiders and has a little spider plushie and like gets really excited and just goes nuts. And like I always get very nervous about making sure that we feel like a person for the duration of one thing, to not be. My therapist would be like, you're using negative words again. I'm a work in progress.
Can we?
No, go ahead.
I was going to ask, can we talk a little bit about intersectionality specifically as Twitch streamers? Because I feel like as a disabled person, there's really not disability representation. That's not white and male, primarily white. But I also feel like, especially like visibly disabled people, like not having a disability tag makes it impossible to find other wheelchair users, for example. But I don't even feel like I belong in the disability community, though, because I'm trans. And it has made it really hard to get people to even want to watch you, because you have the camp of, I don't want to watch disabled people because they're gross. And that is a real thing. There are people that will come into my stream and ask if I'm dead because I'm laying down, or they'll over-sexualize me if they find out I'm trans. Like, I've had people come in and say they want to give me nasty sponge baths, and like in an LGBT stream group, I went in and I had to leave because two guys found out I was disabled and they were like, we want to give you a sponge bath and do all this nasty stuff to you. And then they found out I was trans and they're like, ew, you're gross. And they started calling me trans slurs and all kinds of other stuff. And I left the group and the and the person who started it went off on me because I was like really upset and I posted about it and he's like, you're ruining my group. And I was like, that's your concern here, is that you didn't come and say, look, are you okay? He's like, well, we banned them eventually. And I was like, really? But I feel like it once again becomes like I don't belong anywhere. And I wish there was more support on on Twitch for those of us that are intersectional.
If there was a shun button for those people, so they could just never use the internet again.
Yes.
Like, I'm serious.
Honestly.
Like Black Mirror, straight up, we all block them. They become a static image of a person, and nobody can see them because, like, you don't deserve to interact with other human beings if this is how you relate to us. Like, that's disgusting. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry you've had to experience that. And I think one of the things that just stuck out with me there was the eventually part.
Yeah.
Like, eventually isn't the issue. Or eventually isn't tackling the issue. It's just like, okay, cool. We'll deal with it later. It's pushing, once again, it's doing what white supremacy does and pushing marginalized communities to the side.
Yeah.
I would
And
say
How
like-
much
people do
harassment is
that in
enough for these
general.
mods to go, this person is bad and we should ban them? Like, sorry,
Right,
go ahead.
and-
hon.
As a person, I mod a lot of groups. I'm not too much into Facebook anymore because it got too bad at the start of COVID. I was just like, it's too much. I can't do it. And I'm always on the side of mods are people and we have lives. But like, here's the thing. As soon as I see something, as soon as I see a tag, I'm like, oh, okay, no, we're gonna mute this person right now so that they cannot speak anymore. I'm going to leave a comment saying, hey, I'm out right now, but I'm turned off commenting on this thread. I will catch up with it as soon as I can. And then I make sure to return to it and then get people on whatever. Like, I'll read through and it's quite obvious 99% of the time what's happened, and then reach out to the person who was bullied in this situation, be like, hey, I'm very sorry that this happened. I just want to let you know I have taken these steps to make sure you are safe in my group. Again, the bar is on the floor, but somehow people still manage to get under it, and it's not okay that people are like, oh, well, we did it eventually. No, if
Yeah.
you're gonna mod in a group, don't ignore the tag. Like, obviously we all have lives, but like, things happen. We can't see it all the time right then and there, but we can take the steps and not be like, you're shaming our group. Like, that's horrible. It's very annoying, and it's like, no, this happened and I didn't see any steps taken. And like, the feeling there is absolutely valid, and to just dismiss that is, it's, English doesn't have proper words, but like, it's disgusting. It doesn't make any sense why someone would do that when the bar is on the floor. You could simply read through, be like, I'm sorry this has happened. I got to it as soon as I saw it. I've banned the people, which would have been a much better experience for you than anything else, right? Like,
Can we talk about a comment we just got in chat? People hate what they fear.
ooh.
I really want to discuss that because I do not believe that the hatred that we experience as marginalized people comes from fear. I want people to understand and to accept that white supremacy is based purely on economic gain, and the dehumanization of disabled people is based on people who may feel that they're able-bodied or are able-bodied, saying, I'm above this person. My ability to generate capital makes me better than this person who cannot because of their disability. And it makes me more deserving of things. So it's not a fear. It is literally them diminishing us so they can be greater. That's it.
Hobo,
100%.
your hands up.
How about?
I would say a lot of it comes from a strong place of apathy too, in just terms of like, it's not happening to me, so why should I have to? And that also goes with the eventually thing, is that it turns into like, well, it's not bothering me right now, so I don't have to worry about it, or it's inconveniencing me because, I wanted to go do this instead, but now you're like, oh, you need support, but that's like gonna ruin my vibe, or like, oh, I have to learn something new. I don't really want to learn anything new today, or, I have to figure out a different way to do this. Oh, but it's always been done this way. So why do I have to do a new way? And it comes just from people just not caring about other people. There's no sense of putting yourself in someone else's shoes or necessarily thinking about how can we make this better for everyone. And like what you were saying, it's how can I make this better for myself and
People,
push myself up.
yeah.
It
People
also
want
happens intra community, or within the community. And going off what Jay says, the reason why disabled people do it to other disabled people is because they do think they are better. That's why we see some disabled communities treated like, can we say it's bullshit how everybody treats the intellectually disabled community? Because I can't tell you how many wheelchair users think they are smarter, better. Smarter means better, okay? It doesn't mean it means better. When you say you're smarter than someone, you are saying I'm better than someone. And there are so many wheelchair users who think they are entitled to be disabled. And, if you don't have the disability they like, they're going to complain about you. I see it all the time with parking spaces. I deserve this parking space because I have a wheelchair. I had more trouble when I could walk because of my physical disability. I could barely walk more than 5 steps. Now that I have a wheelchair, I could, it's good to have a van spot to get the lift out. But if the van spot's in the back and there's no like inclement weather, my wheelchair's power. I don't have problems. But, we don't want to recognize the other side. We don't want to recognize other disabled people, and it's about power. It's about a lot of it is done because you want to keep the power. We're all fighting for crumbs. So let me get my crumb, and you be damned. I'm gonna get my crumb, and I'm gonna say you're not valid and you don't deserve it. It's all from power.
I want to.
Also, the presumption that
that for a
having a
sec.
wheelchair makes you more disabled. Wheelchairs are not free. They are expensive as heck. There are many people with invisible disabilities who cannot afford a wheelchair, who are struggling just to get by with whatever they can use. So the assumption that, oh, you don't have a wheelchair, you don't need this spot, you have no idea what that person is going through. I hate that. So-called like
True.
disability investigators, they nominate themselves to try to follow you back to your car to see if you needed to use the cart in the supermarket that had the motor in it. Like, good Lord, I'm so tired of people. But I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt with this. When you said that,
Yeah.
and it was harder for you before you got your chair, people forget that. They really do. So thank you for mentioning that. Seriously.
There's another
the
point.
idea of
Sorry.
Sorry, there was a huge point that needs to be brought up because you talked about where people want to feel better and that there's a thing with mental disabilities and stuff that I need to touch on, and it goes into the LGBT community, and it's something that's been bugging me for a very long time, where people are now saying that it is asexuality for smart people, that they are only attracted to smart people, and that is the definition of that changes, and I'm like, so your definition of smart is how well I fit in your box. And it's one of those things where English is not my first language, so I struggle with it, and you hear me all the time go, there's not an English word for this, but it is the only language that I currently speak well. But I struggle with spelling, I struggle with grammar and stuff like that because I'm learning so many different languages and there's so many different languages going on, but a lot of people seem to go, oh, well, you don't have proper grammar, so you're not smart and we can't deal with that. And I'm like, excuse me? because my emotional intelligence can be very strong, and I know that like I work very hard to be what I deem a smart person in my box, but everyone's definition of a smart person is different. But we see the disabled community very marginalized by people who are claiming this, and it's one of the things that just as soon as I see it, I'm like, you're not part of my life anymore.
Yeah, that is definitely a thing. And I know and go I want to continue on as well. I feel like we should continue on just very, very quickly along with the mental disability side of things. There is a glorification. There's a slight glorification that I've noticed that has been like, oh my god, this person's got like oh my god, I wish I had depression. I'm like, no, you don't.
Oh,
No, you don't.
yeah.
Oh,
And
let's
then
just say
people
it. The trending mental illness right now is borderline personality disorder.
100%. And I know you and I are very similar, both autistic, both suffer from borderline personality disorder. It is torture. It is torturous. Like, people don't understand that I will wake up and I'll be having a day where I will literally just lie on the floor crying and I will not understand why. I'll be
Mhm.
sitting there, I'll be like, and then all I'll believe is the entire world is against me. And you see everything in pure black and white. And if that is if you want that, take it from me. Please. If I could
Please.
give that to you, I would. If you want it that bad, have
Take
it.
my oppression. Please take it.
Please.
I think part of it is just, and I talk about this a lot, is like it's writing and media and like people telling stories and thinking like, oh, I want this special thing, and then being like, oh well, I watched this one thing and here's like a scientific reason, and it's almost like, I don't want to call it like role playing, but like it's, if they can get this thing, then that makes them special, and then that's part of their identity, and it gives them all these superpowers that they associate with this name. Like some people fake being a system, and you know, I mean, having, to put it this way, having different parts or alters is like a bit of what DID and OSDD and system in general is. The only thing that differentiates it from other disorders is the fact that there are quote unquote like either identities or parts. That's like the only thing. But like you said, like falling on the floor crying, like I one day Bean was just walking around and then suddenly just collapsed to the floor and went fetal position and just was sobbing, and we're all panicking inside thinking like, who's doing what, like what, and if they can't talk or we can't figure out what's going on, like that's it, you know, like we have to figure out good communication to get that on. And to think that there's people out there who are like, oh, that sounds really fun, or like the whole murder psychopath thing. Like my favorite is like when you're watching movies about, you know, the hospitals, and it's like oh, and then there was the experiments happening on the hospitals, and it's like back then you didn't even need that whole like, ooh, the spooky experiment. They were just doing that back then, you know. It's not like all those crazy people, quote unquote, just disappeared. No, like the
This
way
was
that they
people's
were,
lives.
yeah, it just makes me so mad that it just becomes characters.
Yeah,
And
mental is a trope.
while we love making things and making art, and like each one of us like does art in a different way, like that's kind of our compulsion. Actually, that's part of like our trauma response, is to make things, which our therapist is like, you need to find other outlets that doesn't tie into that. You need to like fidget with other things. Like I just there's just, I just don't understand why someone with a good life wouldn't just take that and enjoy it and help other people rather than be like, oh, well, there must be something wrong with me. And I want to be, I want to have something else like someone else. I just don't understand.
Yeah.
I wish I could understand it too. My brain can't wrap around why someone would want this. I mean, I have worked so hard to get my BPD basically what I call under control for me. Where, like, even last night I was having a disagreement with a person, and anyone else with BPD can probably attest to this. It gets to a point where you kind of stop seeing the person as a human and you're like, okay, I'm gonna steamroll. I've managed to do the work for myself that I can stop and be like, I'm sorry right now, but I need to get out of this conversation. And before this happens, but I'm like, I'm aware that I'm at this point. But not everyone can do that. And I'm extremely privileged to the point where I can be like, hey, we're going to put this pause button here. But not everyone can. And then we also have the stigma behind, oh, well, their mental illness affected me and they just apologize, so it's whatever, and they don't take the apology seriously. Like, I'm aware that my mental illness affects other people and it sucks, and I try very hard to not let it do that, but sometimes it's just gonna happen. And when I apologize for that, it's, oh, well, she apologizes all the time. They apologize all the time, so we don't have to take that apology seriously because they're not doing the work and they don't see that I am doing the work to try to be not let my stuff affect other people. But I also shouldn't have to mask 24/7 a day.
I feel like people don't see the journey that goes towards healing or goes towards dealing with things that you have. They just see, little bits of your life where you're trying to make yourself happy and look the best and think that, oh, well, they're not even trying, or like, oh, they're not putting in the effort, or oh, it must not be that bad because we never saw it. My family, I don't know if they believe me or not because they're like, we never saw anything like that, and I'm like, that's the whole point. We didn't even know. Like, I just thought, I don't remember 5 years of my life. What happened? I don't know. Like, maybe that's just my brain. It just decided not to. Turns out I do. I just have to go inside and ask somebody because that's how my brain, I might not be able to talk to that person right now, but like, it's just like, I go to therapy weekly to try and bridge the gaps and figure out ways. And it just feels.
That goes back to the media rep thing too. And Kelsey made a really good point in chat about that. You said your family does, you don't know if they believe it because they've never seen it. And that's absolutely true. Kelsey said, I think that's part of the reason disabilities are so negatively portrayed in the media. People need a reminder of how much worse it could be for them. That is 100% true. I've seen that in my work. I literally do this work for a living. Disabled people are here to teach non-disabled people how lucky they are. That, and we use that language in society. I'm so grateful my child is healthy. I'm so grateful they're not disabled. My aunt told me when I was a teenager, she said, if my kids had been like you, I probably wouldn't have raised, I would have been able to do what your mom did and raise you. My mom did the bare minimum. My mom was abusive, and people thought that was good because she kept me, and that's like the bare minimum. You keep your disabled kid, you're a saint, but the representation of disabled people, not just in television and film, but like even here on Twitch, we don't get to see disabled people front and center. I was gonna say Trump. I don't know why. Twitch is not promoting disabled people the way I see. They have a small group of people they promote. They're not helping marginalized voices or intersectional voices really get out there, so that when a disabled kid wants to come see themselves somewhere, anywhere, they can't find themselves, and so then people don't believe our experiences, or they have such a narrow view because um my son's autistic. This is a good example. My son's autistic, and he can't go places without people asking if he's like Rain Man, because that's the narrow view they have of autism is Dustin Hoffman, and he gets really offended. Because that's their view of autism, and if that's not how you are, you're not autistic, you're not authentic, and it all comes back to representation, I guess, is what I'm trying to say, and not having good or any representation is
Definitely
part of the whole problem.
Another thing I just want to quickly touch on that affected me greatly to the point where I had surgery, life-changing surgery. I was always told, oh, well, because you're fat, we're going to deal with that first and then deal with your mental illnesses. I've actually had
Holy
gastric bypass. I've lost 120 pounds thinking, and I was convinced by doctors, by everyone, that if I had lost the weight, then I wouldn't be depressed anymore. And here I am, skinny, blonde, blue eyes, pale, white passing as hell for a Native woman, and I'm still depressed. And I'm wondering how many other people like me out there are sitting there going, great. And like it wasn't just the gastric bypass was what fixed. I had the lap band first, which is clinically induced bulimia, and it caused so many eating disorders and so many other things. I have to take medication to give me hunger so that I can eat because I don't experience it anymore. The medical community needs to do better too, and people need to stop body shaming people into losing weight thinking that it's going to cure their other disabilities.
I completely I want to piggyback because the thing that led us to realizing the whole system thing was Ecto. Our previous handle was Ectobabble. He did a lot for us, but his coming into being was to help us be that positive person and try to get out of depression and everything, but he still could feel it. And I don't know if he was feeling us or if that's just how generally we are, because a lot of us do suffer with depression and anxiety. Generally, we're diagnosed with that. It gets really bad. But he started eating clean, and that didn't help. He started going, and it went more and more and more and more to the point where the restriction actually caused us harm. And it wasn't until we were 100 pounds and I'm kidding. It wasn't, it was, sorry. It wasn't until we got that bad and he wanted help, and he was just kind of asking the universe for help. And the universe is kind of like us, in a way, because we were listening. And I just remember walking in the bathroom and thinking, I've never been this skinny before. And that's just a memory that I have that's connected to nothing, because he was fronting the whole time. And when we realized we were a system, like we had to go through eating disorder recovery because he didn't, and I mean, that's why he didn't front for so long and why he felt so bad, because he felt like he hurt all of us. And he said, if I knew that there was more than one person in here, he's like, I just wanted to help. And I just thought if I just got rid of this food, if I got rid of that food, if I just ate cleaner, if I exercised more, I'm doing all the things they're telling me to do. And I don't understand why we're getting better. And it made us really sick. And that healing process in recovery, I don't remember it, but that was when we started talking more, and there just had to be so much forgiveness inside, because again, like the whole thing with like, oh, you have depression, you have anxiety, here are these simple fixes. Have you gone for a walk? Have you eaten healthy today? Have you eaten this amount of greens? Have you eaten this amount of vitamins? Have you like gotten like a waistband thing, so that way it makes you feel like you're propped up more? Don't slouch over, because if you're slouched over, that'll make you sad. I heard red meat does this for you, and I heard that this product, if you buy this, will do that for you. And I just 2020 it was like we were realizing, oh shit, we're a system. And then suddenly there was no one to talk to, and all we had to talk to was each other. And it was just forced communication, and that was all we had. And I don't think we would have made it through quarantine without each other, just because we didn't realize how much we needed each other. And I think that by going through and telling people like, you're depressed for this reason and you're depressed for that reason, and giving these simple easy fixes that maybe help them because they don't have what you have, is not good, because people will fixate on this and be like, why isn't this helping, and then develop extremely bad coping mechanisms out of it that now are nervous tics and stuff, that now they have to get over that, in addition to the other stuff when they were getting over, when they could have just gone to someone who knew, like, oh, you have this, oh, here, well, we know that this is a series of medications that we can try for you, or oh, here's this therapy thing that you can go on with. That, no, like, it needs to be more accessible for people with mental illness to be able to go in, and it's not like sit outside for 15 minutes. It's not like that. I'm so sorry. And I'm like a little thing. Ecto's really important to us. So I just like
No, yeah, I felt that. I felt that it is. And like to this day, like I am in eating disorder recovery, but like to this day I still like I have to force myself to eat certain foods because I'm like, nope, that was one of the bad foods. That was one of the bad, and it's there. It's there. And it all comes that's my eating disorders are completely external. That was
mm-hmm.
external things that people plugged into my brain to make me believe that it was, and it sucks
Yeah.
because I can't get rid of it. And it's
We all
always
know
there.
when Ecto is starting to front when we start hearing the math, because he would like know, like, if you pick up this amount of blueberries, that's that many calories. If you like, he got so used to measuring things by sight
Mm-hmm.
that now it's like, if I'm like starting to make something and I start hearing 20, 30, 70, and that means, and I'm like, okay, you gotta calm down, dude. Like, you gotta, because I'm starting to, and then it'll be like, what else did we eat today? And I'm like, I love you so much.
And
That's why I ate breakfast.
that's another thing that gets glorified. The amount of times I've heard, "Oh, I wish I could be anorexic for like a week," and I'm like,
Oh no. No. Oh no. No, that's a whole other ball game. That is a whole other ball game, which
Yeah.
I don't even know if I can keep, I don't know if I can keep going. I'm like holding back tears right now. This is
I want to
actually like
hug you
this is
so bad right now, both of you.
I know.
But just
Hang on,
everybody,
guys. The COVID
this is
hug.
all hug.
the COVID hug.
The COVID hug.
I feel like we've talked about a lot of heavy stuff. We really have. And I want to thank each one of you personally from the bottom of my heart for being so open and for talking about all of this stuff, because there's a lot of things that even when you're part of the disabled community, you don't know, because it doesn't, like, there's not, well, representation once again is a huge thing. And I just want to thank every single one of you so much for being a part of this and for sharing your experiences, for talking to us about everything that is so important. In terms of representation, I do want to plug something. There is a team here on Twitch. They are called Accessible Streamers. They're 37 amazing, fabulous, brilliant content creators here on Twitch. All of them are content creators with disabilities. So please go and check out that team. They're all amazing. But you have to remember, all of us are fabulous content creators here as well. So please follow everyone on the panel, support everyone here. Let's end on a high note. What creative projects are we all working on? Where can we find you? What can we do? Hope, take it away.
Okay, so I am streaming on Twitch. Please follow me. I'm not affiliate yet. I've been trying for like ever. I have a TikTok where I talk mostly about the BDSM community that I did that. So that is Hope_Lathi. It used to just be at Hope Lathi, but TikTok does not like the BDSM community, so I lost that account. I am also starting a podcast with a friend of mine. It's going to be called Romance and Rapture. I am writing a book on the BDSM community and how to get more involved and stuff like that, which is going very slow. And one thing that you can find on my Instagram, everything is a link tree. I am actually starting a community garden project, as I am in an impoverished area with lots of lack of access to healthy food, and I have the privilege of having a massive backyard that I'm going to turn into a food garden for my local community, so you can receive updates about that through all my social medias.
And all of your social media, besides your TikTok, is the same as it is here on Twitch, Hope Lathi?
Yeah, and it's always like, it'll always be some version, whether it's an underscore or 2.0, like that's my name.
Perfect. Awesome. Dominic, where can we find you and what are you working on?
Yes, so you can find me on Twitter, Twitch, Instagram as Dominic Evans. It's my name has a K at the end, so it's DOMINICK. So what am I doing? We are finishing up our second study into disability representation. You can read our first study and my 50+ page paper, although I have a 3-page fact sheet, which you probably will prefer, at filmdis.com. That's FILMDIS.com. I also am working currently on and off with Lionsgate, doing various things to help them with accessibility, and mainly right now I'm script reading and whatnot, but I'm trying to bring in other disabled people. I've recommended multiple other people, particularly intersectional. I'm trying to get away from the whole white, all male. We need to uplift each other. I also stream 4 days a week with my partner, Ashton. She is disabled and bisexual. And actually next week I'm taking a hiatus. It'll be her first week streaming alone, so she can use all the support, because she's not an extrovert like I am, so she's kind of nervous. But we stream we play Fortnite, Dead by Daylight, Among Us, Phasmophobia, Minecraft, Stardew. And I play laying down. It's all about showing that no matter how you play is okay. Because people are getting harassed for playing laying down. And there are some rude people who come in, but with a good mod team, you can do anything. And my mods are great. So, play how you need to play. That's my message for all of you. If you need help playing, if you need assistance, don't be afraid because, I'm out here representing for all of us. We're here. We're not going anywhere. And we're just like, everyone else. We're just gamers, just trying to have a good time and have fun. So yeah, that's how you can find me.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dominic. Jay, you have been really busy with cons and panels all this week. So you got anything else coming up?
Okay. Real quick before I get into my projects, I just want to say that in response to someone in the chat, you don't have to understand someone's disability to treat them with respect and kindness, because they were saying that the fear comes from not understanding. You don't have to understand. Just be a decent person. Decolonize your brain. That's it. And I'm doing tons of awesome, exciting work in video games and comic books and literature. I'm also doing cosplay. So if you follow me on Twitch at @JJustice, you can see me building some really sweet Mandalorian armor, because I'm going to be Mandalore herself, Bo-Katan. If you are into video games, definitely follow me on Twitter, because all of my announcements will be on there, as well as Facebook and Instagram for the cute cat photos and the selfies and the cosplay photos and all that such.
I love it. And Hobo, what are you all up to?
We have a YouTube channel where we do videos of like us, like alters, like collaborating together. We have Ecto. He does like reading, and it's all stories that we have made throughout our life to deal with either trauma or like events that have happened, or just ghost stories that we heard growing up when we were young to help like bridge system stuff. The Tale of Charlie Jack is about one of our smallest littles who was dormant for 12 years. And actually, when he woke up, that was a very terrifying experience, because he did not know he was an adult, a lady, and that he was in Texas with a job or anything. So we made that video for him. It's symbolic, but I think it's still entertaining. We're making another one for Mega, and Sunny really wants to say that the stream that we are working on is we're making an interactive shop where you can order things from Gregory Kyle's store. It's animated, and you can say hello, you can order things, you can talk with him, stuff like that, and just things move. It looks very pretty. It's all illustrated. And we're also working on a self-care show in April that will be artwork and drag and short films, and talking with people about what they do to deal with what they're going through in life and what acts of self-care that they do. Self-care is important.
Yes.
Self-care is important, 100%. Thank you, Hobo. And then for myself, I was like, what do I have to promote? I was like,
Everything.
I stream on Twitch every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. Granted, I am in Ireland, so it's probably morning for everyone in the US, but sure, you can catch me there. I'm always down for a chat, so come on by. I'm also running a show on the 27th of March called Blacklight. We are resurrecting it from the dead. It's coming back. But yeah, follow me on my social media. It's just @Nikki_Stones for that. I just want to say again, thank you all so much for being a part of the panel. Thank you so much for chatting with all of us and for sharing your experiences and everything. I also want to give a special shout out to 60BB, Amma Betty Black, who is sitting here in the voice call with us, handling all of our tech, everything. Like we'd be nowhere without you. And yes, we love you so much, 60. And thank you to our mods for moderating the chat. Thank you to the stream queens for allowing this to happen. Also, can we get some hype in chat for the amazing mods, please? Spam those emotes because we absolutely stan our mods. We'd be nowhere without them. Mods make the world go round. So stick around, everyone. We have another panel coming up next that is Access in Gaming, which is moderated by our own Emma Betty Black. And then after that panel, we have a gaming session here as well on the channel. So stick around. Thank you all so much, and we will see you soon. All of the love, everyone. Bye.
Go. Y'all did so well. Oh my gosh. Let me make sure. Doing all this on one computer is a little funky. Now wait a minute. They can hear us. I know. Now chat. Now we're just gonna have a quick little technical difficulty moment. Can you hear them and me, or can you just hear me? I only hear you. That is perfect. Perfect. Okay, we'll be right back, y'all. Enjoy the music.